Hello, I'm Debbie from So Easy. Today we're going to be making these placemats. They're a kind of scrappy placemat on the front and an applique reversible on the back. You're going to need some materials, some black and some orange fabrics, fleece or batting. You'll need these applique templates which are provided and some Halloween fabrics such as these jelly roll fabrics that I'm using here. You'll need to cut your fleece or your batting to the right size that you want to use for your placemat, or just a little bit larger. I'm cutting mine just a fraction of an inch larger than I intend to use. It really helps to get things square at this stage because it will help you a little bit later on. So do take care, use one of these quilting rulers or something like that, and make sure your fleece is ready. If you're using a fusible fleece rather than a batting, make sure that the fusible part of the fleece is on the reverse. Your fabrics ready in the order that you want to use them. Lay the first one out just overlapping on the edge of your fleece, and then with the other fabric you don't want to put it directly over. You want to offset it a little bit so that it's going to look a little bit more scrappy when sewn. So just put it off to the side like that, and then sew following the seam allowance down the edge of the fabric. You can see how I've done that here, and my first piece is offset. So now open out that first piece and smooth it out, and you want to quilt on the left hand piece of fabric. So use your presser foot and just follow along the seam that you've just done and do a few parallel lines, and you'll get a quilting effect on your first piece of fabric. Now it's time to add your second piece of fabric, and again don't put it exactly on the top, otherwise it's not going to look scrappy at all. So offset it again, but probably offset it in the opposite direction to what you did before, and then again follow down with your seam on the edge of the second piece. Continue doing this all the way across until you're done, and this is what it will look like on the front and on the back. Now it's time to just trim and square up, so you can use your rotary cutter or scissors and just cut away those scrappy edges where the little bits of fabric have overhung. It's also good to use a big square quilting ruler like I've got here, because it can really help you get square corners and square edges, and you're not going to end up with a funny shape at the end where things are not quite square or not quite rectangular. Do all four sides, and then everything's going to look nice and neat, and we'll turn it over and see how it looks. Okay, pretty scrappy, looking good. Let's move on and work on the applique. Print out your applique pattern, and over the top add your fusible web. I'm using a heat and bond product here, and draw over with a pen so that you'll be able to see. Then iron your applique with the fusible side down, obviously onto some dark fabric. I'm using a black, but you can also use a dark purple or whatever's going to work, and then cut around, and you will be able to get your applique shape nice and neat. Do try and be careful when you're cutting around to make nice smooth edges. You don't want anything too jaggedy, so use your scissors in nice long smooth motions. Now it's time to cut the fabric for the backing. You'll need to cut it 1 inch larger all the way round. So use your ruler to just cut something that's 1 inch larger on all four sides. Now it's time to add our applique. So you can remove the backing from the applique shape and just place it where you want it to go, somewhere central on the back, or offset it if you like, and then iron it into place, and that's what it will look like when it's done. Now it's time to sew. I've sewn mine on around the edge with a small blanket stitch, but you can use a satin stitch or whichever decorative stitch you want to keep your applique in place. Center your strippy panel over the backing, and then you can fuse that in place. I've got a fusible fleece, so mine's going to be easy. If you're using a batting, you can use a spray basting just to hold that in place for the next step. Then using your iron again, just fold over half the depth, so a ½ inch on each of the four sides, and this will form a nice neat edge for your binding. Pin or clip your binding in place all around the four edges. fold over just like that, and it gives a nice neat edge. And then there are several ways you can attach the binding. On one of mine I did a hand stitch, and you can see it's pretty neat, and I like the way that looks on the back because it doesn't have any stitching on the back. Or if you prefer, you can also use a sewing machine and just stitch close, but that does give a line of stitching on the back, which you may or may not like. So those are the two options, and therefore your two placemats are completed with the nice kind of scrappy look on the front and the reversible Halloween style appliques on the back.